And today we're going to talk about people pleasing, from people pleasing to healthy boundaries. And I got my good friend Mark with me today. And
Hey everyone.
yeah, between us, we have a lot of experience of people pleasing. So
Yeah.
this will definitely be an interesting topic. So, yeah, why don't we go straight into it actually? What would you say is your personal experience of people pleasing, and especially how it relates from people pleasing to having healthy boundaries?
Well, it's kind of been like a journey for me to uncover people pleasing and how deeply rooted it is in my subconscious and my kind of like behaviors. And I'm in Sarah's mentorship program, and so that's been kind of one of the main elements that we've been really digging into is different aspects of people pleasing, and it's also kind of been like a topic that we have talked about on several different occasions, and so it just like requires a deeper understanding and continuation of it. But the deeper that I dig into my own personal people pleasing is that I realized with Sarah that I have like a conflict avoidance pattern. So that I would rather please someone than have a conflict with them. So if somebody asks me to do something that I don't really want to do, instead of putting my boundary up and saying, no, I really don't feel like that, I'm afraid of a conflict that might arise from that. So I say, "Oh yeah, that's super cool. I'd love to do that." Like this fake cheerful attitude. Yeah, and I mean, and that still comes up even to this day. It's just such a deep pattern, and yeah, I think you mentioned Simba that sometimes that even comes from like wanting. What did you say? Like to be noticed or to be validated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where it continues to come up for me and sometimes even surprise me.
Yeah, and it really goes deep. Like there's so many different ways of looking at it. I really look at it from the autonomic nervous system perspective because that's, one of my main strengths and areas that I really like to work within. And it happens so fast, right? Like you said that, oh yeah, I can do that. And inside we haven't really actually taken a pause and feel into it and feel in, do I really want to do it or do I don't want to do it? And yeah, for me, kind of started very early too. At some point, like of I could say no. I wouldn't say that I couldn't say no, but there's always that point of oh, you want to be different from everyone else, or you're object of ridicule, or you kind of stay under the radar. We talked about it before we get on air that
Yeah.
as a kid, definitely you kind of want to stay under the radar. Anything you do that's a little bit funny or a little bit strange might be perceived as weird and be a target for ridicule or things like that, and that just continues throughout life. Oh, this person always says no, and that's not a team player, and that's not this kind of person we're looking for. And I do believe there is important to have a dynamic, right? You can't just have people that say yes to you all the time, because then you don't really discover who you are, they don't discover who they are, and we're not really being ourselves, right? We're not having a genuine meeting, and no one really gets to know the real us, right? And that
Yeah.
just creates a very strange scenario to be in.
Yeah. And for me, it comes from like a traumatic childhood that was full of violence. And so for me, I learned that a conflict means violence. So avoid the conflict at all possible cost. So, like you said, like keep your head down, don't be noticed. And when someone asks you to do something, you say yes, regardless of whether you want to or not, just because you want to avoid the conflict and avoid the violent situation. And those deep emotional wounds carry into adulthood. And so, like, you might perceive a conflict to be violent even though it's not going to be violent, but you're still having that autonomic response in your nervous system to avoid the conflict, and even though there is no present danger. And so, like through the mentorship program and through things like TRE, I'm calming my nervous system down so that I have more clarity and I can see that this is not a dangerous situation. So instead, I can put up a healthy boundary and say, I actually don't want to do that. And that's also kind of a scary thing to do, but it feels good when you do it. It feels really good when you can put that boundary up, and but you do it with compassion. You don't like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, get out of here. But like, just that's not something that I feel comfortable doing. You can be compassionate and set a healthy boundary.
Yeah, and you bring up another great point. That's something I noticed myself when I teach the TRE program and the mentorship that I teach with my clients as well, and people that come to the farm, that many times saying no comes from a fear of, or the inability to say no comes from the fear of, I have to be angry if I do it, or there's a conflict, or someone's going to be
Yeah.
angry at me, potentially violence. That someone needs to leave that interaction feeling either like a winner or a loser. And
Right.
it's just like it's a simple yes or no, like you go to a coffee shop and they say you want milk and say no, that's
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be more dramatic than that, but we kind of with all of these responses and having done it over and over again in life, we kind of tend to come to that point that this reminds me of this old experience, right? And
Yeah.
we're not really, it's not like you get praise. Oh, good, standing your ground. Oh, you're a trouble child. You're not like your brother. You're not like your cousin. You're not
Yeah.
like this. You're just like your uncle. He was like this. And, and we get all of these kind of feedback from early age if you actually stand your ground. So I don't think society, depending on where you grow up and your family household, but conformity is really what's being praised, and actually standing up and have a strong character. It's at least what I grew up in the society I grew up, that was not very appreciated. And I had a strong character, but I got punished a lot for it as well. And yeah, yeah, it just creates that inner conflict, I feel, and that's really what I work with people, through the theory of letting that tension go in their nervous system. So when you have that impulse to actually say yes, when you want to say no, you can have a little bit of a pause. You
Yeah.
can actually take a few breaths and kind of like, what is it that I actually want to say? What do I want to do from here?
Yeah. I also noticed that there's a lot of people pleasing that happens the more that you go into the social realm. So, like, if you have a group of friends and somebody invites you over for dinner, for example, and that's a nice thing that someone would invite you for dinner, and then you kind of then feel like this social obligation to go to that dinner because it's your friend and they cooked food or whatever, and then you're like, I don't, I'd rather just stay at home tonight, but then you just go anyway. Like those kind of things where the stipulation of the social agreement is kind of stronger than your own personal boundaries sometimes when you're navigating in the social realm. So for me, I sometimes still struggle between like going into a social realm and then stepping back into our personal practice. That I notice that people pleasing start to increase more in the social realm.
Yeah, and definitely with peer pressure, right? When
Yeah,
everyone like, come on, let's do that. And it's like, sounds fun, but I know I go to bed late, I eat something off, I do this and these things, and I know how it's gonna affect me. And if I'm on vacation, fine, but if not, that's not gonna be, that's not part of my lifestyle. And definitely, yeah, that's there. It's a fear also of losing friends, I guess, and connections, and connection to family by being difficult or different. So we tend to comply and just, okay, it's not that bad. I'm doing so good in all the other aspects, so I can kind of go into this, but it has nothing really to do with you doing good or bad. Do I
yeah,
actually want it or not? Because every time you say yes or no, you're actually doing something with every cell of your body, right? And that can
right,
start to confuse you if you don't really say what you want to say, and if it doesn't come from your heart. At the end, you don't really know what you want, right? And you can't even trust yourself, because I don't really know how to say what I want to say, because I'm not used to speaking my own truth, my own, like you said, compassionately, but sharing my own voice from my heart. So
yeah,
we might just be very confused at the end and not know what's true and what's up and down. And I certainly been there. I was very scary place to be in, and thankfully I had good teachers to help me to come out of it, and good practices like working through the nervous system, and good mentors and teachers and guides that could guide me through it. And that's what I feel, that's why I'm so passionate about doing this, right? So it's a way of just really giving back to people, and realizing the more you come in contact with this, the more empowered you will be, right? And the life will become so much easier.
Yeah, you brought up a really important point about like the fear aspect, where like sometimes we do things out of fear of losing our friends or fear of losing part of a relationship or whatever. I think that that's also very prevalent. We don't always notice that we're acting out of that fear, and it's kind of a deep place to go into to understand where it's coming from. But once you realize that you're making some decisions based out of fear, you can kind of set yourself free from those feelings, and you can like compassionately communicate with another person and still, be friends with that person, but then tell them no, or change the dynamic of the relationship that way, so that both people are more free to communicate with each other by having healthy boundaries.
And like, I think it's important also that it doesn't have to be all of these communities and bubbles where we're purists in each and every community and there's no inter interaction in between. Like, I can go to dinner with a friend and they might eat meat and I eat something else. As long as I go to a restaurant where I can get, what feels good for my body, and of course I want them to be able to have what feels good for them if they don't share the same lifestyle as I do, or eat the same food. But we don't always have to, like, it doesn't have to be always like this way or like this way. You can meet and you can still be you. You don't have to convince anyone my way
Right.
is better than yours. I can be in mine, you can be in yours, and that doesn't really say anything, right? Like, you're doing what you do and I do what I do. No one has to lower their what comes to them, their quality or standards in life, right? We can still be ourselves.
Yeah. So I think like one of the things that I struggle with, and I'm sure a lot of people struggle with, is like how to actually go about setting a boundary. So what advice would you give to somebody who's struggling to set boundaries?
Start to listen very carefully to everything you say yes or no to. Take a pause, take a few breaths every time in your life when you say yes and when you say no, and really feel into the feeling in your body. Like, literally take a pause before you answer or just after you answer. Someone asks you a question, you say yes or you say no, doesn't matter the answer. Pause. Does that feel like a good answer or not? That will tell you a lot where you're operating from, and how that is impacting your body.
Mm. Yeah, I think I would say there's kind of an intuition that you can tap into, because your mind might give an immediate answer like yes, but your intuition will give you another answer, and it might also be a yes, but you have to allow the intuition to speak for itself.
Yeah, yeah, I agree 100%. Using the body awareness and consciousness to do so, and that's really what we teach in our mentorship programs, right? Like, we have one seminar a month, and then we have two, like, group coaching in our mentorship program, and we also teach weekly classes of TRE and breathwork for people to really kind of clear out the autonomic nervous system, so we are not just this impulsive, responsive being, that we actually can clear some space. So we have that space that I said, there is a inquiry from the outside world and your reaction or response, that we have some space in between, and that's what we call the grounding, right? The
Yeah.
ability to ground, and like you said, intuition through your body before we actually take action. That's a very big part of what we do in the mentorship programs. And then, of course, we have two one-on-one sessions a month in that. And we have some slots open still for people. If they want to join in, they can drop us a DM, explain the setup. And yeah, I really like the way we're conducting the mentorship now, right? Because it's just really allows for space to grow, and it's been very appreciated so far by the people that work there. A lot of people high achiever, they're busy people, but it's still in the schedule that they're able to do this and get benefits out of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm in Sarah's program, and it's through our interactions that we're really diving deep into this people pleasing, and she's helping me to notice the different areas of my life where I still tend to hang on to those things, and then what we can do to kind of work through those things, building a deeper level of confidence for myself, And this is also helping me to establish a healthy masculinity. So setting boundaries is part of that process. So yeah, it's a very deep container to work through the more difficult aspects of our subconscious.
And you get mirrored in a group, by mentors, but also in the group, which just allows you to feel not alone as well, right? There are other people doing the same work, because in the one-on-one sessions you might feel safe, but am I the only one doing this? And then you notice in a group setting, in a container, that wow, there's more people doing this, and then that's kind of how we wired. It makes it easier to
Yeah,
do when you feel that group pull, right? That group traction. So yeah, we're really happy that we're able to do this. All
yeah,
right. Thank you very much for today, Mark. It was really
yeah.
nice having you here and sharing
Thank
your
you.
wisdom around this topic. And I don't think it will be the end of this topic. We'll probably come back and revisit this in some other form or shape.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay. All right. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.